So here we go. So I told you about me doing the rewrites, which is going to be a long, arduous challenge. It's going to take a couple of days. No, it's going to take a couple of months. In the meantime, I was telling you about locations. So when I was talking about locations, I forgot to mention the fact of before you can do locations, you have to actually take the rewrites and look at the scenes. We have different scenes throughout the whole film, of course, and we had dealing with different time periods. We're pretty much chronologically following me from early childhood and even up to even as far back as conception, and moving forward through some pivotal moments in my life that pretty much changed my life for the better or for the worse. So when I talk about the different scenes, when you're writing a script, or in my case rewriting a script, you need to make sure that you actually pay attention to what each actual scene talks about. And for people who don't know the terminology or what scenes is, it's pretty much a point that you're talking about that actually focuses around a pivotal character or emotion or thought. It basically talks about, it hits on something. It normally usually lasts for maybe a page or two. In some of the bigger scripts it can last even longer than that, but normally it only lasts a few pages. But something needs to be going on in that. And so when I talk about locations, I have to look at the actual scenes that I've written down. I'll use an example for one of the programs that is going on Comcast that I did called Thick Madams. It's actually on Comcast 95, Verizon 36 that's playing pretty much for the rest of the week. But one of the scenes I have is when the young lady comes into the club and she's putting some things around the club, and you have to kind of zoom in close to see what it is. Well, that's the scene. And it basically, you're looking through the camera's eyes at what's going on. Well, you have to actually plan that out ahead of time in either your head, which can be unreliable, or you can do what we call storyboarding. And so that's what I forgot to mention the other day, storyboarding. So rewrites are great, which gives you the actual lines they're going to be saying and the actual scenes that are going to be set up. However, you also must include storyboarding. And there's a nice little app that I have called Storyboard That. It's about $9 to $10 a month, but it's worth it. And you can pretty much make a storyboard of anything. And what Storyboard does is it actually breaks down and shows you a blank screen, almost like for those people who have, Microsoft Word and stuff, and the accessory, it's almost like that little paint box, the little accessory called Paint, where you can put in shapes and colors and all these kinds of things of what you're trying to create, or what you're trying to show. So for the instance, the one I just told you about with seeing the girl coming in, I would actually draw the club and have a character, most likely a stick figure of a female, walking across and having her hand, something in her hand as she places it strategically someplace. That would be my scene. I would actually have a scene where, that would actually be my storyboard. I would actually have the storyboard of the person walking in. The next storyboard would be the person close up with something in the hand. The third one would be the person going to the actual location and putting whatever's in her hand in a spot. Then having that character walk back out of frame, walk back out the bar, and then walk out the door. That's when I say you have to set up your scene, because that also tells you about what kind of location you're looking for, what you need to spot out for. Now, some people don't do storyboards, which I totally understand, and they have it all up in here. But what I find out what happens is, if you're a one-person show, that might work well. It might. However, if you get distracted, you're focused on getting the best out of your actors, you're focused on getting the lighting right, you're focused on multiple things. Without that kind of storyboard or even just a list of what you're going to do, it kind of gets muddied, and then you're sitting there making your actors, your staff, if you have it, sit there for hours as you try to figure out what you want to shoot and how you want it to look. Not to mention, of course, the location. You need to find the right location. And with the storyboard, where you're actually drawn out of what you actually see in your head of where these characters are supposed to be, what kind of surroundings they're supposed to have. With that in mind, you can then scout for locations that have those. And it's also part of the rewrite, because if you can't find the right location for the storyboard, then you have to go back and change the story around to fit the locations you can find, and it becomes like a circle. The script, the storyboard, the actual locations. And you keep rearranging and rewriting and doing that all over again till you can get it down, everything you want to say, the way you want it to look, if you can get it, and the locations that'll let you do it. It can be tedious sometimes, I promise you, but it's also going to be quite fun. I love a challenge, and I love using my creativity. Trying to figure out how to do things in a different way on a budget, or in my case, no budget at all. It can be really exciting. For instance, even this afternoon when I was at my day job, or night job if you want to call it that, I used paint as a perfect example to actually make a scene of an ocean front with a little island and a little house on the island, moon in the background with some clouds going behind it. Well, excuse me, in front of it. It was creativity. It was the way I wanted something to look, and I used what I had available to make it look the way I wanted it to look. The same thing you're doing with your story. The same thing you're doing with your short film, your web series, your movie. You're trying to get things the way you see it in your head. And it doesn't always come out to be exactly the way you see it, but then you get to change what you see. The people who run into trouble are the ones who refuse to be flexible. The ones who refuse to actually realize that you're not going to always get what you want. Not only because you don't always have the money, because as amateur filmmakers, we very rarely have all the money, but simply because time may not permit, location may not be able to find, or the location that you want to use, they might be busy at the time you want to shoot. And you can't have your actors and actresses waiting the whole year to shoot something. You need to give them some kind of time frame. And that's my next thing I'll be talking about tomorrow, time frame. But I want to talk a little bit more about the process and what I'm doing for Black Family Lives, the movie. It's a gradual process, but my story has been years in the making. And so if it takes me another year or two to get it out there, I'm praying it doesn't, but I'd rather take my time. If I have to take 6 months to plan and the other 6 months to film, then that's what I have to do, because I want to make sure that it's not so much having it perfect, but that the message is clear. So, as I said once before, and I'm going to keep saying, I will get the story out. The truth will be heard. Thank you for watching.